Coming up on today's wrestling news, a huge AEW injury blow.
WWE confirms the launch date for the new Bray Wyatt stable.
A possible new Bloodline member has left New Japan Pro Wrestling.
And Jordynne Grace punches Shawn Michaels backstage. She wouldn't be the first.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. And let's start with some bad news, unfortunately. For Dax Harwood, who you may have seen confirmed on social media, he's going to be gone for the foreseeable future as a result of a back injury. He explained that he initially hurt his back during the title ladder match with the Young Bucks at Dynasty. He suffered a hematoma, but powered on through it. Then he did more damage to his back on Collision over the weekend when FTR faced the BCC. And as a result, the AEW medical team has decided to pull him from the road so he can get healthy. And as I said, gone for the foreseeable future. He concluded his tweet saying, "I appreciate you all and I hope to see you all soon. Top guys out." Good for him.
Yeah, it's bad news for AEW, bad news for both of FTR, because he did in the video message state that it'll be it for FTR for a bit, so maybe this video has been released with consultation with Cash, and we can assume that both of them will take the time until Dax recovers. Such is the life, I guess, of being a tag wrestler sometimes. A difficult time to get injured in AEW, full stop, what with Wembley on the horizon. That's as big an event every wrestler wants to be on. To sort of feel like that, by sort of accident, I guess, that team AEW already felt crocked going into Anarchy in the Arena, and now we find out that Dax was dealing with this as well. He mentioned, obviously, with so much of the pain that wrestlers endure being centred around that lower back and doing all the bumps on there, that this is about as bad as a place as it can possibly be.
I'm always astonished whenever wrestlers say, "I was injured, but I just powered through." I get like a hangnail and go, "Cool, that's it for the week then." Yeah,
they're just built differently. And he apologises to Tony Khan and the medical staff in his video for playing down, I guess, what he thought was something he could work through. It's that wrestler mentality. But a rough one, and big like FTR, Dax and FTR leave a huge hole in AEW for sure.
I know they've got a huge roster, but that injury list is huge now for them. FTR, Adam Cole, obviously, we don't know. Well, we sort of had a bit of an update last week on Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Rough times.
To echo the words of one of Dax's good mates in the industry, the get back will be better than the setback.
Yes.
I'm sure the FTR pop will be huge when they make their return.
Best of luck in his recovery.
And speaking of huge pops for returns and all of that, we are potentially 6 days away from one. Last night on Raw, the QR code for the Nightbird stable is now being acknowledged kind of by the commentators and by people within WWE's storyline universe. Gave us a countdown timer that ended on next week's Raw. This kind of confirmed speculation that it was all due to climax on the post Clash at the Castle Monday Night Raw, but this is all the confirmation we need. The stable is centred around what we believe to be the Bo Dallas portrayal of Uncle Howdy, following on from the that character's introduction during Bray Wyatt's last WWE run. It's set potentially to feature Nikki Cross, or Joe Gacy,
Dexter Lumis.
There has also been rumours of Alexa Bliss on account of a shadowy Alexa Bliss looking figure that appeared in one of the backstage segments on Raw last week in that very trademark Triple H. Wait a second, what was that?
That
you get all the time in WWE now. The countdown. There was, for those that followed the QR code, they were given a message that said your patience will be rewarded, before flashing up again, your impatience will be punished. That then took us to the countdown. Much like Jericho's countdown to the millennium, when you went, wait a minute, that's not the millennium, that's a Monday Night Raw. The Sleuths have done the maths on this one as well. We've talked about this a little bit. There could potentially be some of the roster getting over the jet lag from Glasgow.
Yes.
So this potentially frees up quite a bit of Raw for quite a big reveal. It's going to be
Corpus Christi, I believe they are next week.
Corpus Christi, Texas, yeah. So feels like a kind of follow the buzzards, the Bray Wyatt adjacent place, doesn't it? Eric Rowan, of course. How could I forget?
I was going to say, I'm excited but nervous about this because, they've built this up for a long old time, but also it's spooky bollocks. So I'm not my biggest favourite thing in wrestling, but I'm not going to prejudge this, and I'm very excited for someone like Eric Rowan to get his opportunity again.
It's the usual thing, isn't it? The people that love it, love it. The hype for this one is going to be real next week. Yeah,
this time next week we will know what this looks like. Yeah. I'm just excited to see what it looks like, actually.
And
what they do with it, whether they there for a purpose? Are they going after the world title? Are they they're trying to take over Monday Night Raw? Is that going to bleed onto SmackDown as well? I don't know, but I'm excited to see how this turns out.
There'll only be 3 weeks out from Money in the Bank.
God, yeah, they just keep coming, don't they, this time of year?
Another PLE to build to as well, so yes, we will see.
And the Money in the Bank qualifiers start next week, so we're here and we want to be in the Money in the Bank.
Just across the whole match.
Yes. Right, let's switch over to SmackDown and the Bloodline. Obviously, they keep adding new members. You've got the right-hand man, Tama Tonga, the infamous Tonga Loa, as he's now known. And a potential new member could be joining the stable. And they have just left New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm talking, of course, of Hikuleo, who wrapped up his time in New Japan at the Dominion show over the weekend. Losing the tag team titles to TMDK, Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste, of course. And he's expected to join WWE. There's a report on this saying that he's going to be a part of the Bloodline saga, obviously. No word as of yet as when this is going to happen. But it could be as soon as this week's SmackDown with the way things have worked out. If you're unaware of Hikuleo, he is the adopted son and nephew of Haku, one of the most terrifying men ever. The adopted brother and cousin of Tonga Loa and the biological brother of Tama Tonga. So obviously more familial connections for the Bloodline.
Yeah, one of several names, including, as you say, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. Hikuleo was one of the ones that was named as a potential when, I guess, you were looking at expanding upon the Bloodline story, or indeed looking towards the Tongan side of the family tree. This is always one of them ones that seemed likely. We remain in waiting for Jacob Fatu to join the group as well. So we will see. I guess there's going to be some argument out there that this is, subtraction by addition, or however which way around that is, because the more numbers you're adding to this version of it, the more potentially it waters down this concept. The Bloodline's in a strange place at the moment of SmackDown. A divisive version.
You and I disagree on it.
I think so. Yeah, but certainly got to let it play out, and it certainly seems. This is the thing. It all seems very well plotted for the baby faces you love to come back and do something about it. Though in the meantime, you've kind of got to build the heels up to force the revenge.
I should mention as well, Hikuleo, by the way, if you're unaware, is 6'8".
An absolute monster.
Yeah. And I love the Bloodline storyline. I think it's one of my favourite storylines in wrestling ever. And in my head, the more people, not necessarily without, there needs to be a cut-off point, but the more people they add to this new version of the Bloodline, my head goes, that's more baby faces to take them on the year side, where Roman and, I don't know, the Usos potentially, and maybe Sami Zayn, who knows?
At what point do we just have Haku fighting Rikishi for all of this as well? Representing both sides of the family
for all
tree.
the marbles.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
In a four-way with The Rock and Cody for a belt at WrestleMania.
Yeah, two very different evenings, isn't it, if you spend one with Haku and one with Rikishi.
You would know. You've lived half of that first time, haven't you?
Yeah.
Speaking of different evenings, Jordynne Grace had a one on Sunday, of course.
She sure did.
It was unsuccessful in her attempt to win the NXT Women's Championship from Roxanne Perez. A great match all the same. She also lost a chunk of her ear when her earring came out. Yeah, that's what the blood was in the match. So that was all hard work. And there was a few notes from Fight for Select that were, to be honest, talking in detail about the experience that she had. It's well worth going to read it. She says she's obviously looking forward to Against All Odds and welcomes NXT.
It's this Friday, isn't it? Yeah.
To answer her open challenge. She said obviously that it was weird getting used to more cameras than she would be typically used to in TNA, but all still good coming out of the Jordynne Grace WWE camp. She was also, I should point out there, to do some motion capture for Chelsea Green and JC Jane.
Amazing.
The visual of Jordynne Grace in the mocap gear doing those specific motions is one I would like to leak online as well. But something else I wouldn't mind seeing for real are the outtakes of the set piece that she did alongside Sexy Red and Shawn Michaels when they did a bit of a Chef Shawn bit where she said something like, order up, and Sexy Red had the money, and there was Shawn in his chef's hat in the middle, basically enjoying the smell of his own farts that NXT's getting all this critical acclaim at present. She did note that in one of those she accidentally punched him. So nice to meet your new boss, anything you need, smash. But I would like to think at least that Shawn's taken worse in backstage interactions with fellow talents in the past.
Yeah, I don't think Jordynne Grace.
Well, maybe not. Maybe even a love tap from Jordynne Grace stands more chance hitting you harder than the Dave man taping up the fist.
Yeah, I was going to say Jordynne Grace taping up the fist before they shoot some TikTok content.
Scary the Undertaker, isn't it?
Oh, look, that is funny, this, isn't it?
It's good stuff.
I also saw a clip of him twerking with Sexy Red. He was living his best life over the weekend, wasn't he?
Yeah. I should point out as well, in the Fight for Select article, they mentioned a nice earnest bit. This Jordynne Grace didn't know that Gail Kim was going to be there in attendance.
That's cool.
You know, there's been a sort of tumultuous relationship with WWE, but her making that leap for support of Jordynne Grace was quite nice.
Gail Kim's just awesome, isn't she?
Yeah.
Really lovely person. I chatted to her at WrestleMania a few years ago as well.
One of them ones that feels a little bit better than wrestling sometimes, isn't she, Gail Kim?
And you were probably sat there thinking, well, what were they all doing together, hanging out on Sunday night? Well, I can tell you there was a show actually.
All right.
On Sunday night. It was called NXT Battleground. You're grounded! Battleground! But man, you're a winner. Ding, 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 ding. That's the sound of the old one-armed bandit paying out in the casino.
What casino, you might be wondering? Well, I would recommend the beautiful Oyo Hotel and Casino, where you can play $1 blackjack while drinking $2 beers. Hit us up in the DMs, please. We are desperate to get in touch with you.
And speaking of NXT Battleground, myself, Hamflet and Sidgwick, we're reviewing it later on today. So What Culture Wrestling Podcast, wherever you get a podcast from, or of course on YouTube.
We're done with this scene. That bit that you all love so much, that Vegas crack. They don't know that anymore.
Then all we've got is NXT Whip and all the other bollocks.
It never ends. It never ends.
Speaking of all the other bollocks, let's get to your Twitter questions. At What Culture, WWE and X, of course.
Not that over.
Oh, well, that's where that goes. First question today comes from Nader Michael Hannah Al Sheikh. Sorry, Nader, if I've butchered that. What if the whole Ricochet thing is a work?
Oh, God.
Now you're talking my language.
What have you done?
For Breakker to terrorise Samantha Irvin all summer, Ricochet re-signs at the end of the summer, makes a surprise return, defends his wife, and wins the Breakker feud in the end.
If you make that bit, I'm going to smash your head into this 10 times. No, I don't think it is.
Hell of a write-off, though. Jesus.
Was really great. Samantha Irvin's acting was tremendous. Sold the whole thing.
Ran in heels as well. She's running from ringside. Bloody hell.
Fair play. Possibly more painful than falling on a gimmicked car, unless they use real glass.
Crimey River Ricochet.
Look, I think there's obviously a lot of sort of conversation about whether or not Ricochet to AEW is the move, but Ricochet away from WWE, I believe, is the one. I am curious to see how all of that goes. It's I think the right time for everybody to try that move away from WWE. So as much as I understand why people think everything is a work, I'm sometimes susceptible to that myself. I think Wilborn's been known once or twice to throw a bit of suspicion around.
I've dabbled.
Yeah.
I've dabbled.
I think this one's a shoot, brother.
And if you want to know mine, Sidgwick and Hamflet's thoughts on the Ricochet thing, check out the Raw preview from yesterday. We talked about it in detail on there. My main takeaway, though, from it all is not related to Samantha Irvin or Ricochet. It's give Bron Breakker all of the belts because he's the best thing in wrestling right now.
Yeah, that was
he's
another incredible night, isn't it?
Has to be Mr. Money in the Bank. Hey, Ricochet wants to work some indie dates.
He can't work to find.
I hope he likes working with two ropes. Anyway, Curtis Santiago gives us our second question. Thank you, Curtis, for your question. Another bit of me, this. Should never let me be in charge of the Twitter questions. Just pick my favourites. Curtis says, when Carmella comes back, she's the princess of Staten Island. Have her join Queen Nia and Tiffany Stratton. I love this. I've banged on to you about this on many occasions that I want a full royal court of Queen Nia.
We've already been pitching potential members, I believe, on our SmackDown coverage yesterday. I hope Carmella's enjoying time away from wrestling with a new child.
Yes.
But I did notice that she has taken a bit of an interest in some of your other favourites. Did you spot her interacting with Fallon Henley on X around Battleground? Fallon Henley's incredible look. Again, we will go into detail on the Battleground review. But she was putting that over, and Fallon Henley was thrilled to be
That's nice.
to be catching the attention of the Princess of Staten Island. So whilst it's one of the things with some wrestlers where it's like they're kind of without seeing or hearing much of them, it's easy to forget. Carmella is watching, so don't rule that sort of pitch out.
Hi, Carmella, if you're watching.
We know she's watching us. She's a huge fan, but she's watching WWE as well, and
just genuinely happy for her, and they obviously had an awful time of it. It's just nice. Probably just enjoying motherhood right now, but a royal stable for Queen Nia it'd be a dream for me.
Temporary partner of Queen Zelina, of course. So there is law for this.
Yes,
queens and princesses.
And I love the idea of Princess Tiffany holding Money in the Bank as Queen Nia challenges for the world title at SummerSlam. And as we've pitched before, the court jesters in all this, pretty deadly.
There we go.
Yes, boy! Final question comes from Cindy Lights. Thank you, Cindy, for this. Who says, I've heard much discussion about the NXT-TNA partnership and people down on it so far being a one-way street. So I want to ask you what you prefer. Little bits of crossover throughout the year or one big Forbidden Door event a year?
little bits all the time for me. Otherwise, you're going wrong way down the wrong way straight. It's wrestling. There will never be, with the exception of Ring of Honor and CZW in the mid 2000s, I don't think there'll ever be an invasion where both sides, if they're real companies, the actual invasion with WWE and WCW was one company that owned both and could have had it all.
Yes.
But I don't think you ever really get that feeling if you're if you're a homer for one team or the other, that you have as much chance of winning as you say, in this case, WWE, obviously, with all of the leverage and all of the stuff to gain, including the wrestlers, really, as opposed to TNA, who will probably be grateful for the exposure, who will be grateful to promote the appearance of certain WWE wrestlers. It appears as if the likes of Tatum Paxley and Brooks Jensen are going to appear on TNA. That is cool too. Maybe you guys watching, the likes of us that enjoy NXT, with all respect due to those wrestlers, it's not them sending Cody, is it?
No.
So it's one of them
coming to NXT tonight.
Indeed it is. So it's one of them things where, it's always going to favour one side more than the other, which is why I prefer the little and often approach, because you never know. You just never know. If you look at the AEW one, Kenny Omega working pay-per-views for Impact Wrestling at the time for doing that. Drew a big number for that first Impact following the reveal. He was with Don Callis and all that sort of stuff. That stuff to me always feels bigger than trying to force it together for one big night of dream matches.
Yeah, and I think
compromises as well.
Yeah, I think the danger is also you burn through it somewhat. I'm not saying that this year's Forbidden Door isn't good. I'm just saying they have gone through a lot of that roster. And granted, they bought half of that roster as well. But Naito versus Mox is great, but there's not many of I'd really like to see that person face this person.
No, there's only
certainly not as much as there was.
Only so many stars that you can build, isn't there?
Yeah.
Within one calendar year before that show comes around again.
And the beauty of having it being just whenever you want it. Like if you have a bit like with Jordynne Grace, if you have a sudden dropout for either way, like if there's something like, God, who faces, I don't know, Moose for the world title?
Nobody called her, did they? We were doing pitches, main roster and that. And as you say, it can work both ways for TNA. The idea of a fly-in from NXT or WWE would be huge, wouldn't it?
I think within reason. I think you've got to limit it. But also, like we've said, it's got to be a fair exchange of, as much as we love Brooks and who's the other one? Tatum Paxley. Thank you. I think if you've got someone on the main roster, a big main roster star, and you're not doing anything with them, a Baron Corbin, for example, right now. Great, have him head over to TNA. I think it's got to work for both parties. But rather than a big event once a year, the surprise, and you'd have to have some of them go over occasionally. Otherwise, it's just like, oh great, they're just coming in to lose. Yeah. But a really exciting prospect. Multiplied by the fact that literally Pat McAfee said, say his name and he appears at the start of Monday Night Raw, and I almost leapt out of my chair watching Raw this morning. I would imagine the person whose name, should we just say it? Joe Hendrick. But buzzing with that too. He's already appeared in an interview with me, which is available on this channel right now. Go and check that out. And let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe. Join us for an after news later on today as well. But for now, why not check out this video right here? We'll see you soon.